Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, all dear viewers. Welcome to my show, Sports Talk. Your host, HUSSAIN Mahmood, live on UC TV. First and foremost, I'd like to give a big shout out and a thank you to all our viewers, people who have liked, shared and commented. We've had absolutely great movement on this. Lots of traffic coming through. Thank you very much. Stay tuned, stay liking and keep sharing. So, on this week's show, episode 2 on the topic, I will once again be bringing you views surrounding the low entry level of British South Asians in top flight football, across all levels from players, managers, staff and the coaching teams. We all have a role to play in creating awareness, improving performances of our youth today, opening doors and opening hearts to understand more. We simply cannot leave this concern to take care of itself. Change will not just happen. We have to play our part in creating openings where we desperately require. It's fair to say we have to be in it to win it. So, following on from last week's show, we had some very important questions that we put forward to our guest, along myself, Mr. Khalid Esat, a former level 4 referee. We brought to Khalid, last week, some questions which entailed regarding the population of our British Asian descent. We all, diversity and equality and fair qualification system is our number one agenda in top flight football. What we want to know is, are we getting the right response that we need? Can we shake things up to the right effect? Let's find out. Khalid, he brings with him 20 years of experience, grassroots level. He possesses a strong footballing background and promotes football by establishing a platform for young Asian footballers with his father Ismail Esat in the very early days. Now he manages his own team, men's senior team, Blackburn Elite FC in Blackburn. My dear viewers, shakers and makers, get in touch via the number on screen which we will show and post your comments online. Let us hear your views. Let's get to the top and bottom of this and let's introduce Mr. Khalid Esat. So, Khalid, thank you very much for coming on the show with us today.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah. Just regarding last week, alhamdulillah, you know what, the response has just been overwhelming. I've had so much response, I've had so much positive comments.
Is it keeping you up at night?
Oh my
Is it
days.
enough for you, Khalid?
Honestly, no joke, I like to talk here. And then I get a phone call, it's just like now, I was leaving home and somebody's rang me up. And it's like, oh, are you going on this show today? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, okay, cool. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to get changed, yeah. So I'm trying to get changed. This guy's on the phone to me. I've come downstairs. My missus is there. She goes, you know what it is, you? All it is, even your daughter says this. It's just football, 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 football. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but you know, it's just my passion. But I'll tell you a story. So a few years ago, my sister-in-law, my missus' sister, she was getting married. So she contacted my missus and she goes to my missus, when's Cal going to be free? Because I know Cal's always busy with work and football and stuff. When's he going to be free? So I said, why is she asking that for? She was like, oh, well, obviously she wants to sort out a wedding date. I said, yeah, make sure it's in the evening, innit? So then I can go football on a Saturday, play my football, come back, and then obviously I get the best of both worlds, innit? So anyway, she's gone and booked this wedding, and it's in the afternoon. I go to my missus and says, you know what's happening, you know what I'm going to do, innit? I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go football.
This is a Saturday afternoon, by any chance.
So honestly, I'm not even going to lie to you, man. I'm not gonna lie
Plenty of passion there, Khalid.
Bro, I miss my sister-in-law's wedding, yeah, to go football.
Khalid,
But then not only that, I miss my two Mrs. Auntie's weddings as well to go football.
Listen, mate, this is why I brought you on the show, and I think it's fantastic. All that passion, although they won't like it very much, I imagine.
Well, listen, you know what?
And it's got nothing to do with me, Cal.
I don't think I'm going to apologise, yeah? So I want to make sure, live on air, listen, aunties and sister-in-law, I do apologise. I might be...
Listen, I appreciate your time. I hope whatever you were doing and you had enough justification because you put in that work in that football match and you brought it home.
Yeah.
If that's what you did, then that's fine. In my books. And that's the value,
you know
that's the value that I'd like to get from you today as well, Khalid, because that passion needs to come through. Yeah, just like yourself, you've got a lot of experience there, Khalid. There's a lot of youth who also possess that passion Do they go to the wedding or do they play the game? It's a big question. A lot of sacrifices and a lot of compromises are being made by our youth today. A lot of development, a lot of areas in their life they have to sacrifice because they're focusing on football, only to find out that they will be released and they won't get a place, they won't get a spot. So that's why we're here on this show today, Khalid, taking that passion that you've given us. Good luck to the family. I hope when you get home today the roti chawal is ready for you. That's a separate topic, I won't get into that. But on a more serious note, last week we discussed the ethnic minorities, and we're focused on in particular the British South Asians coming through to top flight football. You asked me a question last week, Khalid, in terms of what is our population, what do we represent in terms of population within the UK. I went back and did some research. That number turns out to be 7%, and 7% of the UK population represents 3.5 million people. Now, Khalid, that's a pretty large number. Out of that 3.5 million people, not all will take an interest in football. But let me break this down to you. How many have actually made it to top flight football? I suppose that's our number one question. From the research that I've done on BBC and the works that the Football Association have put together, and the advisory and the strategy publications they've put out there in 2015, right the way through to last year, 2019, there has been 4 representations with a British South Asian background in top flight football. So here's the question. Why is there not more BSAs, British South Asians, coming through to top flight football? Now let me put this across to you also. The names of them 4 people. Now me being the common man, the layman, if I wasn't a footballer, listen to these names and then we're going to ask Khalid his views on it. Okay, so Khalid, number 1, and this is in no particular order by the way, we have Neil Taylor, British South Asian descent. Now before I go any further here, Khalid, and I don't want to get into any murky territory, any grey areas as such, but I do want to unravel what is happening backstage. Simple question, Khalid. Neil Taylor. Does that name spark to you that it's somebody that might be your cousin or might be a relative as such?
Without sounding, I don't know even how to put it this, I totally get where you're coming from. Neil Taylor, when you think of that, automatically, now without being disrespectful to any other cultures or religions or anybody else, Neil Taylor for me straight away, that I would not put that in my mind as being a South Asian heritage player.
Okay, great.
Just because of the name.
Before you go any further on that, I appreciate your answers. Quite succinct, quite clear, quite to the point. No is your reply on that, Khalid. Would you therefore say that coming through the qualification process of the system, is it fair to say that we need to go to the registrar, maybe have a look at our names? Is it the name that's been printed on the shirt that might not get promoted? What is it with these names, Khalid? So that's the simple answer. Now can you elaborate on that for me? Because I will go into the next names, 3 other names. Before I do, what's the take on that, Khalid? I mean, you're saying that this. What's your take on that? Neil Taylor, is that an Asian player?
Well, from looking at doing the research myself as well as yourself from last week, going back on it, I did. Neil Taylor is one of the first names that comes up from the South Asian descent. So I thought, okay, let me have a look. Now, without being judgmental or whatever, what other people think and putting different thoughts or words into other people's minds.
Yeah.
I think automatically, right, you're in an academy, you're an Abna lad, you're an Asian lad in an academy. The coach shouts, Neil! He's going to be thinking, before he's even met this guy, he's not an Asian lad. Yeah?
Okay.
Straight away. But say there's somebody else called Abdul. So the coach shouts, Abdul! you see what I'm trying to say? There's a complete different vibe there where Neil Abdul. Now, I'm not going to... I mean, it's something minor that we're looking at his names, yeah? But it is something that... I guarantee you half of these people that's watching us, right, half of the viewers won't even know that Neil Taylor was from the South Asian origin unless we mentioned it.
But this is it, you see, Khalid. I mean, this is exactly my point. Is if, let's say, Neil Taylor's playing for Aston Villa, right? I'm pretty sure he was signed in from Swansea.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's still playing for Aston Villa, as I believe.
He's not made any appearances.
He's not made any appearances as such. We wish Neil Taylor all the very best. I hope you all the very best success in your career. This guy, the name that comes across, is it? So we're talking about breaking through to top flight football. In order to break through to top flight football, we have to put everything out there. It's just not just our talent, it's our culture. And now are we saying that the name also takes part in that, Khalid? Because for me, that's a big area, that. Because if you're saying to me, okay, you've got the skill set, you've got everything you possess, you've got the strength, the stamina, the attitude, even the culture to a large extent, being British born, but you're going to have to change your name, or the name don't fit.
Well, you know what? Funny enough, you're saying this, and this might be not a football subject. There was actually a survey earlier this year regarding car insurance companies, and they did the exactly same thing on the car insurance companies. So if your name was Mohammed, if your name began with Mohammed, right, automatically your car insurance was a lot higher than somebody that was called Alan or Neil. So it's not just in the footballing aspect, it's just in the way this... without sounding prejudiced, but this is the way it is in this country on how it comes across.
Well, it's very, very tricky, isn't it, Khalid? Because look, whilst you've opened up a new area there. You're talking about, driving insurances and price quotations, increasing in premiums, etc. As well as that, we could talk about job prospects, employment prospects, application processes, application forms. We have this ethnicity tick box. How important is that ethnicity tick box? Do we have the ethnicity tick box for football? This is the question we are asking. We want all the viewers to get involved, get in tune. We've come straight into the topic. We're aware of the time that we have. There's massive interest in this. So we want you guys to get involved. I would like you guys to get involved and contact us on the number, which is 07864 765 540. That's Emma. You could text on there, and it's WhatsApp also. That number once again is 07864 765 540. Give us your views. So, Khalid, Neil Taylor is one of them. It's quite clear that the name Neil Taylor doesn't really... It's not someone I'm going to put on my wedding list anytime soon. The second name we have is Michael Chopra. So we've got something going on there, Khalid, with the Chopra. Chopra is crept through. But Michael, Khalid, is this the same question I'm asking? Well, let's run through the rest of the names. Hamza Chaudhry. That's got to be a breakthrough, Khalid.
I think that was the...
Was that...
I'm not even going to repeat what I thought when I first heard Hamza Chaudhry's name. And you know what? It was at Leicester. I think he's still at Leicester. I don't think
he's the guy who looks like Fellaini, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the big fro on his head.
The big fro guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So does that mean his name, maybe his look gets away with an African type of a look? As he has to play that system?
I don't know. But to be honest,
is that an angle he's found?
You know,
maybe I need an Afro, Cal.
His actual background is Bangladeshi and Grenadian.
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
he has that mix.
Yeah, he's a mixed race lad.
Okay. Bless him. Fair enough. Okay. So finally, we have Zesh Rahman, who's currently playing for Fulham.
No,
he played for Fulham. No, he played for Fulham in 2004. I believe he started. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So bringing it all back to you, viewers. 7% of the population is of BSA, British Standard, British South Asians, out of which 7% represents 3.5 million, out of which 4 individuals have made it through to top flight football, out of which 2 have the name of Neil Taylor and Michael, so you could boil it down to Zesh Rahman and Hamza Chaudhry. So this really does bring us back to the same topic. I mean, we had a comment last week that yes, we have had 1 or 2 Asians come through, but when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, putting things into perspective, 2 out of 3.5 million, for me, it doesn't really excite me much, Khalid. So we're on this topic. Last week we discussed about parenting side of things, how we can get involved as a community, right from starting from home, how we are supporting, encouraging our youth, empowering them with the skills and the confidence they need to break through to that top flight football. Some other areas that I picked up on, and I'm sure that you've had some views and comments yourself there, Khalid, is our diet. So diet is an area that we need to consider right now, Khalid, because if we're pushing our youth to doing X, Y and Z to top flight football, and then if I may say this now, I don't want anybody to get offended by this, if you're going home after a really good game of 11-side football, you're training hard and you're having aloo paratha, or you're having, gosht chuza, and it's got that oil in there, how far are we going to go with that? Because if we want to get into top flight football, we have to be the part. We have to play the part. We have to have the right physical attributes to make it to top flight football. Because let's not forget, Khalid, 90 minutes in top flight football is not a gimme.
100%.
Right? And they're not throwing money away for these players who are on crazy amounts of money a week. Right? The question, therefore, is, Khalid, do we have the right mindset? Are we exercising the right procedures? And is our diet a concern for us getting into an athlete build, position, and therefore prosper in that manner?
Yeah, I think you know what, that's a very, very good question that you just asked, and I think this is one of the main things that we do need to touch upon ourselves. Even just not even this at the professional level, even grassroots. I mean, our diet. I think we've probably like you said earlier, without offending anybody, I think we've probably got the worst diet in more or less the whole world, because majority of our food does come with oil in it. Everything that you eat. That's why our cholesterol's always, when you look at the Asian people with the cholesterol, is quite high. Yeah,
I would say, and black men in itself, in terms of high blood pressure and cholesterol, it's a rising concern.
It all comes with this. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of young youth growing up and they are gym fanatics. I mean, for me, alhamdulillah, I've never needed to go to the gym.
Oh, mashallah, let's not go there. That's a long topic in itself.
I've never needed to go to the gym. But yeah, so you got a lot of the youth going through now, and they're going to the gym, and part of that gym diet is eating right, because if you want to get mean and lean quick, it's not just spending hours in the gym, because you know what, you could spend 2-3 hours in the gym a day, but you're not getting the full effects unless you're eating right as well. So this does come into it, and I think we do need to look at it. So as well as the diet that you said, the sleeping patterns as well. Now, I'll be honest with you, from a kid, when it comes to sleeping patterns, I've always been one of them. On the weekends, I'll go to sleep very, very late. And I know this for a lot of Asian lads, because a lot of Asian lads do like to socialise at night time than they do during the daytime. So when it comes to nights, when it comes to like just chilling out with your friends, we'll go for a curry, we'll go for a kebab, we'll go for a pizza late at night, or we'll go and play snooker, we'll go to the movies late at night. And this is another thing that we're going to look at. So it's our commitment, it's our attitude, it's our diet, our nutrition. You've got to have all these things, and there's a lot of attributes that you've got to take into consideration and put all them together to get to where you want to be. Now, parents that we touched upon last week, that is another massive factor. Now, the parents need to be on their child as well, because from what I notice and what I see, the parent ain't pushing that child as much as they are when it comes to their GCSEs, even though this is another lifestyle that they could take. And now,
Absolutely.
like you said, with the money at the moment is huge in the footballing game.
It's massive.
We
touched on this last week.
Yeah,
it's huge. We said I wanted a piece of it. I still don't have a piece of it.
100%. So, if you want your child to become a doctor, where they could be earning what, 60, 70, 80, say tops £100,000 a year, right? When they could be a footballer, when they could be earning £100,000 a week.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. So what are we saying then? Are we going down? We touched last week. I mean, if you guys tuned in last week and watched the show, we was quite big on this area of our parents pushing us towards the academic route. Obviously, Islam being number one, we're going to a masjid and it's conflicting from training sessions to football practicing and the masjid essentially. This time, we're talking about food, diets. What are we eating at home? Some of them carbohydrates that we are consuming, and the curries that we're having with it, and then yes, I've got to say it, the char that goes afterwards and the desserts that come along with it. Are we promoting the wrong diets at home to reach that level? Let's be fair, Khalid, let's be fair. Top flight football requires athletes. It requires dedication, it requires commitment, it requires seeing the process right the way through. And surely diet is a big part of it. We want to hear your views on that. We want to know what kind of changes are we doing at home from a home level right the way through to the athlete level. And food is a big part of it. You are what you eat. And I tell you, if you look at some of these sprinters, runners and their diets, and look at marathon runners and look at their diets, I can tell you they are two separate diet types. So,
sorry,
Khalid,
I just want to mention something. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I also want to question something. It's very interesting. I had a conversation with somebody who was at an academy in the past, and he mentioned about the halal food diet at the academy level.
But this is what I was going to touch on next in terms of what I do, but that's fine.
I'm going to let you go ahead with it then.
No, you could jump onto that. So what happened there, Khalid?
So this is going off.
Khalid, I have to stop you there, my friend. It's a very interesting topic you're touching on next. But guys, we have to take a break. Stay tuned. We'll be coming back discussing the aspects on top flight football and BSA's British South Asians. We'll be right back.
How many views are we on?
Welcome back. Thank you very much. Khalid, we were just discussing with yourself in regards to our diet and it's having an effect on our youth, and is it possibly having an effect on our youth, and what we can possibly do to change things. So Khalid, in my opinion, top flight football, as I mentioned before the break, requires a certain level of athlete, and I'm sure in our views, opinions, that is the case also. I've asked you in regards to what our diet is like at home. What can we do, or what message or what experience have you had to that effect that dieting has changed things for you? What would you say that we need to do to change things moving forward?
I think we've just touched upon it. I think we do need to eat a lot healthier. I think it's. I mean, our parents.
You say eat a lot healthier. That's fair enough. Okay, so I'll go home, eat a lot healthier. When I get home, there'll be roti.
But also, it's also putting it out into practice and keep it at it. Because I think what happens is, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be personally honest with you. Myself, I've done it. I've started off a week, 2 weeks. And then I started missing my gosh and my chicken and all the curries and stuff. And I'm like, well, forget that, man. I can't be bothered. But I mean, that's my own personal thing, right? And I know there will be a few others that will be the same boat. But I think the parents need to be strict. It just come down to. But when they get to a certain age, yes, the person has to be responsible for their own actions. Yeah. So when they get to about 16, 17 and they are at this academy level, they do need to start doing it themselves. But from a younger age, because a lot of the times the younger children, the youth do depend on their parents to make the food for them. So the parents should keep up to date with it, saying, well, you know what, my son or my daughter, she's at an academy, yeah? And part of this, it means eating healthy. So I need to put out something that there's salads there, or there's vegetables there, or something that's not cooked in oil, something that's more like, you know, I don't know, I'm not a chef, right? I'll be honest with you, I can just about make beans on toast, yeah. but that's what it is with me. So, yeah, all these things that we do need to look and consider. Now, I know just before the break we mentioned something about the halal food that I brought up at the academy levels.
Yes.
Now, going off my own personal opinion and speaking to a very good friend of mine who was at academy level, I know at his younger days when he was there, I'm talking about 15, 20 years ago when he was there, he really struggled for the halal food at the academy.
Whilst at the academy?
Yeah. Okay. Because when they went...
So how long are these training days sessions? Are they a full day session?
Well, I think they might not be full days at a younger age, but once they do get to a professional contract, yeah, then it's basically you can't go and play for anybody, or you won't be working because you got a professional contract.
Do they have accommodation there? Is it about coming and going every day?
I do know, cause I'll tell you this from personal experience, refereeing at Blackburn Rovers, they used to have a lot of youth staying overnight accommodation. They actually put them up into their own academies at Brockhall Village. Yeah. And they were all from, whether they were from abroad or whether they were from here in the UK, where it might be down south, they might have signed on a player from down south and he had to move up north to join this academy. So all of these things, yeah, they have to do all of these, all this halal food and stuff. Now, alhamdulillah, as the time has gone on, we have got a lot more Muslim footballers in the Premiership. So as they've come into the Premiership, the halal food has become a necessity now. It has to be there as a requirement that they have to put on halal food because of the Muslim footballers. So I think...
Has it happened though, Khalid? You say, there's a publication that they have to do halal food. We've got a message coming in there, guys. I'll just read it out to you. Do you think that there's going to be a British Pakistani player playing for England in the near future? Interesting question. Who's that coming by? It's coming by Mariam. That's a very interesting question, and that we hope they will happen, inshallah. Let's hope so. But before that British Pakistani player gets into top flight football, we better hope that the right is conditioned properly, the right mentoring, the right coaching, and the right level of confidence, the belief that we need to instill in our youth today will carry forward tomorrow. So, Khalid, you touched on... Khalid just touched on halal food in the football industry. I was over at my local gym just the other day, and I was a guy pulled me over, and he obviously spoke to me about the show Sports Talk, and he said to me, Hussein, do you not think that there's a big culture clash? And I said, well, why should there be a culture clash? We both reside in Britain. We kick the same type of football. The distance from one goal post to another goal post is the same. What kind of culture clash can we possibly have on a football pitch? So the answer to that was, it's not necessarily on the pitch. It's when you go to the stadiums. How many British Pakistanis or British of South Asian descent do you find in the football stadium? How many how many parents do you see taking their youth to a football stadium that are of British South Asian descent? And also, once they do get to the stadium, do we cater enough for Muslims? Do we cater enough for Muslims? But then again, Khalid, that raises me another question, if I may bring you in on this. When we are talking about British South Asian people of that background, you're also considering within that Sri Lankans, Bangladeshis, people from Nepal, Pakistan, and I believe even Afghanistan for that matter. Obviously, India and Pakistan is our main topic, and me being Pakistani, Cal from an Indian background, we're going to bring that in. But people in Sri Lanka are not Muslim. It's not a large majority of Muslims in Sri Lanka there, Khalid. So why does the halal aspect need to play a part in that when you have British South Asians not being Muslims? So from an Indian and Pakistani point of view, we're going into academy now. You mentioned this friend of yours who was in the academy. He went there. Was he going every day? Was he going every week? I don't know, but he does need to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, so once he's there, does he feel comfortable enough? Is that culture causing a clash? And what is being catered for that individual?
Well, I know at the time he was the only South Asian Muslim in that academy. Now, this particular instance I'm going to talk about, he went to Isle of Wight, which is on the south coast.
Sure.
It's a little island, south coast. He went to a football tournament. And there was, I think on this academy, I think he was under 13s, under 12s, under 13s. Now, he was the only Muslim lad from this.
Okay.
The whole academy levels, because it was like a tournament. It was an in-house, well, I won't say in-house, but at that time academies, they never used to have tournaments. They used to be like a friendly kind of tournaments.
Was it still a selection process?
Yeah. Well, at the time, so he went with his selected club. I'm not going to mention the name, I'm not going to mention the club, because he's asked me not to. So out of the respect, I'm not going to mention it.
Okay.
So what his coach had to do when he went down, he's asked at half time, they've had to delay their half time kickoff because every other player has had something to eat or even after the game, they've had something to eat. But this lad, because he was from the Muslim background, he didn't have no halal food. So his manager had to drive down to a petrol station and buy him a sandwich.
My days.
Because there was nothing else for him to eat.
And how long ago is this?
He was 12, 13 at the time, so I'm talking literally about 18 years ago.
18 years, okay. So that's some time ago there, Khalid.
Yeah.
So are you...
But then we're talking about the generations coming up.
But this is what I'm saying.
Right?
In them 18 years, have we advanced? Have we,
so now
changes taken place?
Yes, I think now, because I think you look at Sadio Mane for Liverpool,
yes.
Mohamed Salah, look at Pogba at United, again Muslim players from the Muslim background.
Yeah,
so they have to, I think now, like I said, it's become a requirement that all clubs must have it, because even when they're playing an away game and say they don't have any Muslim players, they always have this where, no, do you know what? Because it's not just the meat side now, it's also the vegans.
Sure.
So they have to cater for, because the time and the world is changing, and you have to adapt to it. And I think that's what it's come down to now. So I think now there is a bit more into it compared to what it was previously. And if we're talking, why hasn't anybody been? Because if it was 18 years ago, he would have been in his 30s now, so he'd have been hitting just past his peak, or he'd have been hitting his peak 30 years old and playing in a professional game. And maybe that might have been a stumbling block for youth coming through from the South Asian.
Absolutely, Khalid. And this is why I said times are changing, we're fast evolving, things are moving very, very, very fast. And we have to adapt. This show, Sports Talk on UCTV, is giving us a platform, is giving us an opportunity to talk to you out there, to create awareness, to get into your inboxes and get into you as a person if you're a footballer coming through the academy. If you're not a footballer, you've got to be supporting the cause. How are you going to do that? We're going to do that through at a home level first. If you're a parent, our older generations have not. We feel have not. They may have, but we feel have not yet because of their responsibilities, because of all the many things that they had to do in life coming through. First, I've given time for sports development. What we're saying today is let's start to change and break that mould. Let's start to develop our youth in the sports development area. Let's start working this. Get us your views, speak to us, send us what you think. Our number on WhatsApp is 07864 765 540. That once again is 07864 765 540. Get in touch with us, give us your views. Now, Khalid, life diet, we've very quickly skipped over it. As a matter of fact, I'd love to actually go into it in a little bit more detail in terms of nutrition, in terms of balanced diet, sleeping, lifestyle, time of eating, the hours sleeping. Becoming an athlete, Khalid, it's not an easy job, is it?
Oh, hell no. To be honest, it's a lot of dedication, time, commitment, and you've got to have all of these attributes. And like I said, if you don't have any of these, you're missing certain things. Now, being from, and I personally believe this, being from a South Asian background, when it comes to getting opportunities, we have to work 10 times as hard as somebody else who is born here, raised here. And I'll be honest with you this, and I'm going to touch upon something that's that's been happening over the last 6-7 months. This is a massive movement, the BLM, right? The Black Lives Matter. Now, up to a certain extent, I agree with it myself. I support it because we're in the same category. When it comes to getting a job opportunity, say you've gone into a workplace, right? Now, you're working for this English firm, you've got this idea, and you think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to mention this idea to my boss. Boss will just brush it off. But then you mention it to the next man, who's your colleague. Your colleague mentions it to his boss. The boss turns around and thinks, oh, what an idea that is. You know what, let's try it. And then it works.
Because of the source of the idea. Yeah. Where is it coming from? Yeah. Not what the idea is.
Yes.
But where is it coming from?
So as I'm saying, so what I'm trying to get at is that we have to work extra harder to get these opportunities. People might disagree. People might not see this. But I have been there in big works.
Well, do they disagree? Do you disagree? Get in touch with us. 07864 765 540. We want to hear your views on this.
I've been in workplaces where I've had to work extra harder because I've not been recognised for the work that I've been doing. And people might say, oh, it might be laziness or whatever. It's not. It's being, you give up with an idea, and if they don't take it across, but then somebody else comes and gives it, how would that make you feel, Hussein? How would that make you feel?
I'll feel devastated, to be honest with you, and you feel hard done by, Khalid.
Yeah.
And
somebody else taking your limelight. Well, or somebody else taking the credit that you.
Everybody wants to feel important. Everybody wants to feel encouraged, and everybody wants to feel deserved. If something that is worked for, and something that is when it's put against, or put in comparison to, and if he produces the results, then he's entitled to that credit. In my view, Khalid, does that answer your question? Because that's where it boils down for me. That's the aspect. We've talked about dieting, we've talked about being an athlete. Something else that we want to talk about right now is our attitude. British, South Asian backgrounds. What is our attitude? Is that a factor? Because I've walked onto some pitches as well, Khalid. I've walked on in my own time, walked onto some pitches, and I've come across with lads that saying, look, I don't need to be here. It's raining today. I don't want to play. It's cold. It's Saturday football. Everybody else is at home relaxing. I don't want to play. I only want to play X amount of football, get my limelight from a local community, and I don't want to go any further than that. Is it because his attitude is stretched only as far as that, and that's only as far as he sees himself that he's capable of and can go? Is it the case of an unfair qualification system? Khalid, what do you think? what is our current attitude level in terms of football, our professionalism? Can we take professionalism on board? Can we present ourselves on that stage? And if so, how are we going to do it?
I think we can do it, and I believe every individual can do it, but it's how you go out and do it. And
okay,
I think
that makes sense to me.
There's confidence, but then there's being overconfident, and there's having an ego.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of these things you got to take into aspect.
You're absolutely right, Khalid. You're great.
So
you know,
you can go in and you can have this
right.
but going in there with the confidence. Now, confidence takes time. It doesn't just happen. Now, some people are born with it, some people aren't. But a lot of times, somebody might come across as confident, or they might come across as, yeah, I'm something, or you know. But do you know what that comes down to? Because they're actually very low on self-esteem, and this comes down to it where, because they want to show that they're the big man and they're trying to hide it, when realistically they're not. They're nothing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah, so are you saying that's an expression?
Yeah.
To have an invalid expression, they're covering up the real emotions.
Yeah,
but them real emotions is what we really want to understand, because out there in our communities and on the football pitch, it doesn't really seem to be getting across to me. Now, Khalid, I've been played so much of my football in Accrington. I've been well known in Accrington for my football. I have so many friends in the football circuit. I've played in Blackburn, and I've come, just like yourself, I've played from grassroots to seven-a-side football, and I have a lot of friends in the football circuit. But when it really comes down to asking how somebody is as a player, or what do they think as a player, are we giving ourselves the right encouragement on the football pitch? Khalid, is that a question? Are we motivating our core players? Are we demoralising them? What's going on the pitch, Khalid? Tell me what's going on the pitch. What do you say to your friends?
You know what? I love this bit, what you've just mentioned, because you know what? This is something that I absolutely hate.
Okay, all right. So what part of it? The fact that it's happening?
I was just going to elaborate. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've played with a lot of up-near Asian teams, and I've played with a lot of English teams. Yeah, and I've played like my own Blackburn Elite is a mixed race team where I've got lads from different backgrounds. Where the Asian, the English, you know, for me, that's how I wanted it. Now, playing in a lot of the Asian teams, I'll be honest with you, our own attitudes and egos towards each other, right, is probably the worst I've seen. And I'll tell you why. One, you make a mistake, and majority of the time, instead of growing that confidence of helping your teammate, they turn around and they start effing and jeffing it. And then some of the swear words, like, now you know that Asian swear words are really bad. You know, if you look at the meanings of majority of the Asian swear words, I'm not going to mention them now on TV.
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
Right, but the Asian swear words. So, and I've heard this countless of times with the Asian lads. Now this is where they need to encourage each other and say, do you know what? You've made a mistake. Forget about it. Let's move on. Forget about it. You know, when I've played for English teams, this is the difference when I've played for an English team compared to an Upner team. Now, we're Blackburn Elite ourselves. I've cut this out. I hate it. Because what does it do for you? It only knocks your confidence. If somebody's made a mistake, the last thing that you want is somebody else to belittle you even further and highlight it, yeah. And then your confidence just goes from there to there.
Yeah.
So that's something that we do need to look at within ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that only the Asian teams do it. I've seen it with a lot of the English teams. But with the amount of Asian teams that we have, they do it a lot more than the English teams, if you know what I mean. If you get where I'm coming from.
I know exactly what you mean, Khalid, and that's what brings me to this point. Like I say, in my career, wherever I've played with Asian teams, I find that if you make a mistake, or let's say you've missed a penalty, you've accidentally tripped over, or you're given a free kick away, these Asian teams, they're coming at you really, really hard, as if you know, this is it, this is the end of your career. I'll leave that there for 1 second. I've got a question on screen. It's from Ismail Mahmood, actually. Assalamu alaikum, Ismail. I feel like Pakistani players in football won't ever be as common, because if we do ever decide to get into sport, we usually edge towards cricket. football is underrated in our community. Ismail is actually my nephew, if it's the right Ismail Mahmood. He's my nephew. He's living down London in Buckinghamshire at the moment. Ismail, thank you very much for your message there. Well, I'm going to come on to that point, and I'll do that first before we get back onto our other point. I could tell you, Ismail, I have not picked up a cricket bat or a ball and taken it with 10 of my friends to the park ever.
Have you not?
No, I haven't. I've never been involved with any cricket team. The last time I played cricket was in my primary school when that milk campaign was out. Drink milk, some many years ago. All of my friends play football, and I'm sorry, but I don't have any friends of mine, and I don't play any Sunday cricket. So, all of my friends in Blackburn, all of my friends in Accrington, I'm heavily involved in sports. So, coming to that comment is, yeah, we are big on cricket, which is fair enough, but that's because it's our national sport. On a grassroots level, in our local communities, you'd find that a lot of British South Asians are very much into football. They love it, love, eat, sleep football. Khalid, he told us earlier on in the show, he's missed a wedding because of a football match.
Shh. You don't have to remind everybody again. Oh my days. You're going to get me in trouble now.
Obviously, there's a high level of passion there. I mean, we feel at this moment of time, in this era that we're going through, that we have the talent, we possess the right build, the right physique as such, and the right attitudes and the right charisma to break through to top flight football. The reason why we feel we're not actually breaking through is because maybe or possibly our unfair qualification system. There may well be a culture clash, but if you're asking us the question of will we see Pakistani or British South Asian descent people breaking into top flight football, I think yes we will. These kind of shows will encourage more support for our youth in the academies, and we will be that pillar for them. We will be their voice, and we will follow their story and take them through. So stay tuned, Ismail, thank you very much for that comment. Keep them coming, let's hear more about it. Khalid, so we was touching on attitude actually, and we was touching on points such as encouragement on field. We've talked a lot about off field, but I'm now bringing in the conversation to say that core players, team players, managers, management team and the coaches amongst us, when we're going into our changing rooms, what kind of advice, what kind of encouragement are we giving to our players to break through? Once we see a superstar, are we pulling his attitude down? Are we allowing him to free up and spread his wings and fly? Khalid, what's your take? What can we do for our core players to feel better about themselves and give them the belief that yes, bro, you can do this?
I think encouragement is massive, and you know, there's two ways of going about encouraging somebody. Now, you can big this guy up. He could have had a poor game and build his confidence up, or you could just basically really encourage him. And unfortunately, it has happened on a few grassroots teams, local grassroots teams. I'm not going to mention names because I'm not going to call them out, and I've seen it personally myself. One lad has a really good game. Anyway, they're all on him. Oh yeah. So what's happened is this confidence he's not become confidence, and he's got like a bit of an ego. And this is the last thing that you want, is to have this person to have an ego. Instead of just building his confidence and saying, you know what, stay humble, teach him the right ways, stay humble. But yes, keep doing what you're doing, and let's see if we can take it that level further, where what we're doing locally is, yeah, bro. There's never no negative side. So this guy thinks automatically that, you know what, I'm the man. Nobody's going to touch me. Nobody can touch me. I'm the best player here. What kind of attitude is that? So all of these things that we do need to address.
Absolutely, we need to address them majorly. And if there was one word out and a shout out that I would give today, as a player who's played many games, I would encourage our youth and our players in this era to encourage, not discourage, to promote and not demote, to rise above and to encourage our brothers to get to the next step. And if you're finding that the mistakes have happened, do what is the right thing to do, and that is to mould into the right shapes to break to top flight football. We need to start wishing well, and our attitudes need to come together. We need to work together to get a result and get us into top flight football. So Khalid, I'd love to talk to you more about diet, lifestyle, attitudes, parenting, and the overall confidence that our players possess. But one thing that I'd like to move on to, and I've got some very interesting points to move on to next. We're coming very close to the end of the show, I'm afraid. But we have our topic 3 agenda next week, and that is going to be all around the Football Association. What the Football Association has done for us so far. I will highlight to you the strategy. You may well be surprised to learn that the Football Association has already picked up on this matter. They've discussed and put together preliminary kind of publications on how we go around this. Then publications were first presented in 2015. They are in depth. There's the chair of the Football's Association in terms of the inclusion board, Heather Rabbits. She's got a community development centres in and around may well be your areas. So we want to kind of get into that, break into that, and get more Asian players getting through them community centres. How do we do that? How do we go about doing that? Stay tuned, and I will give you that the intel and promote the right ideologies. I'd just like to say thank you very much to our guest today, Khalid Esat. Khalid, thank you very much for your insights. I'm afraid we've been short on time today. We couldn't quite cover the points we wanted to cover today, but inshallah next week we'll be talking about the Football Association's viewpoint on this. They have also, like I said, wrote an article on this, and then we will start to bring you the views on that. In the meantime, please watch the video, send in your comments, write in your post. We'll get back in touch with you. And for now, on this occasion, I would like to thank you so very much for staying in tune. Thank you very much for all your comments, your likes and your shares. It's been a fantastic viewing. Keep going. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on our next week's show on UC TV, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thank you very much.